Welcome to the SharkPreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Green. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Green is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Welcome to the SharkPreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Green, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, the inventor of the infomercial and the original shark on Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington. Kevin, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thank you, Seth. I'm excited. Happy holidays, and it's a good time to be together.
Absolutely. Our very special guest today is AJ Adams, a branding mogul extraordinaire. AJ, thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate it, Seth. It's definitely a privilege to be on the show, and thanks for the generous title introduction.
Right. Well, your real bio is pages and pages long, so I shortened it. Give us the short version, because you didn't start out as successful as you are. How did you get to where you are now?
So, you're
doing work with celebrities. You're doing work with some amazing, famous people, helping them get it to the next level when they think they're already doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. I started out as a motivational speaker. I was talking to kids in high schools and colleges, and I learned branding out of necessity because when I started, I was broke. I had no money. I just knew I had a passion, wanted to inspire young people. So I had to force myself to learn branding, marketing, social media, got pretty decent at it. And then years later, I had colleagues asking me, hey, who's doing your branding and social media? Can you help me start doing some consulting here and there? And then my wife, all my best ideas come from her. She said, you need to speak on branding, not all this motivational stuff. So I started doing that, saw the response, and realized, I love this. I love helping someone communicate their message in a better way. And then we launched D6 Media this year. And just through branding, networking, make sure my message is clear. I connected with Greg Ryder, who we all know, and things have just been kind of growing from there. So it's pretty incredible.
You're doing some work with some amazing people. Talk a little bit. The first household name that pops into my mind would be Bethany Frankel.
Yeah, that was a really cool project to do. This was right before she went on Shark Tank as a guest shark. And shortly after connecting with Greg and Bernt Ullmann, who are now our partners, and they said, hey, we need to reposition her because her existing site was more of a blog and people knew her as the Real Housewife of New York, but she's so much more. She is a business dominator. Like, she has done incredible things with her Skinny Go brand, her books, philanthropy, very charismatic, dynamic speaker, but that wasn't necessarily reflected in her brand and her website. So we took an approach and we strategized how to communicate that, redid her website, her copy, and really let people know Bethany Frankel is so much more than what you've seen so far. So keep looking at it.
Hey, near and dear to me talking about Shark Tank, AJ. That's pretty cool. It's funny because Shark Tank, now you've got Richard Branson, Alex Rodriguez. That's a great concept of what you've done to kind of reposition people a little bit, because people think of Alex Rodriguez as an amazing baseball player. What they maybe don't realize, and this is because I know a little bit of detail, that he's actually, fairly astute at some of his investments. And, some of the ball players, you hear, oh, they made money, but then they lost it. They didn't do good in the market, or they got taken advantage of. But, there's transitional things for some of these folks where they become, Magic Johnson, for example, he became very successful as a businessman, and even more so out of his businesses than even his basketball career. So the rebranding, the repositioning can be great at getting great opportunities for some of these guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things too that a lot of people don't think about is that your brand has to evolve. Embarrassing story. When I started as a speaker, I branded myself as the black belt leadership speaker because I have a background in martial arts. So I would talk about adversity and how I grew up without, poor, without a great education, high school dropout. And then at the end of my talk, to prove that overcoming anything in life is 90% mental, only 10% physical, I would break a stack of bricks on stage. Kids loved it. It was exciting. It wasn't practical because it hurts every time. But I realized that that brand didn't give me room to evolve in the future. So I looked, 10, 20 years, and I thought, I'm not gonna be able to evolve. And a lot of, even celebrities, they need to evolve their brand. So, that's where we take that approach and strategize. How do we build a brand that can be either evergreen or allow room for it to evolve over time without it being confusing?
Okay, so I have a question because, when you talk about helping an Alex Rodriguez of Anthony Franco, that's pretty powerful, and that's good stuff to know that you're a go-to guy for people that have. I mean, in those two cases, they've already gotten there, right? So how do you take somebody that is a startup entrepreneur and they want to build a brand? How do you help them identify maybe even a brand that they want to get rolling with, and then identify what brand they should pick, and then how to build it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So we actually have a proprietary process that we use. We call it our D6 process. And the name D6 Media comes from that because I sat down when D6 Media came out of a company called Heart and Social with social media marketing. I quickly realized that we didn't want to do that because the real problem for the potential clients we were talking to was that their brand sucked. So they needed a stronger brand. So what I did was I sat down and I made myself my own client. I said, how can I strategically and methodically build out a brand? So in doing that, I wrote down discover, determine, develop, deploy, deepen, and dominate as like the process. And I looked at it, it's 6 Ds. So that became our name, and now it's our process. So we take a client through that, and the very first thing we do is we dig into their story. Because like so many things we go through, once we've overcome an adversity or a challenge, you're working out at the gym, you become stronger. Everything you did prior kind of seems easy. And we can forget how powerful that is for someone who's still in that space.
Okay.
When I tell a story about how I sat on the Taco Bell and I had $6 to my name with a wife and 2 kids at the time to feed, for me, it's like, okay, I got past that. But if I tell a story to an audience, grown people are in tears. So I help them deconstruct their story and find what we call the gold nuggets. And then we develop content around that. What are the pillars? What are the core values? What about you is really the most powerful that will add value to an audience? And then from there, we're able to build out the offerings, and really we base the brand on what is the story? What's the personal connection people can make with you so that we can build that relationship equity for long-term, community growth and success.
Super. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see business owners and entrepreneurs making when they come to you and you say, oh my God, this person needs my help?
Yeah. So it's the difference between value and vanity. So many entrepreneurs and business owners start out building a brand for their vanity. I want to look a certain way. I want to be perceived a certain way. And that's a part of it, but they start creating content, building a website, giving themselves a title, creating product offerings based on what they want without fully considering what does the market want? What is of value to my audience? So we took a stance when we create content for our clients that we're creating content that is actionable, that gives them some kind of value. Either it's motivational, it's educational, but it's also not cliche. It's authentic to their story or the story of their brand.
You know what? That's really interesting that you talked about. Is it what you want or is it what the marketplace wants? I have a personal example of that. My wife's favorite restaurant growing up was a place called Swiss Chalet, which I don't know if either of you have ever heard of. Yeah. And okay, maybe an East Coast thing. And there were 2 in Western New York that she used to go to as a kid. Both of them have gone out of business. You can only get Swiss Chalet in Canada now. So we've got to drive half an hour to an hour to get Swiss Chalet. So a couple times a year, we make the trip to Canada to feed her fix. She's like, man, I want to start a franchise in Buffalo so I can eat it. And I said, it's because you want. And she posts on Facebook and all of her friends say, oh my God, we would eat there too. We miss it too. And I say, well, why don't you get the uniform offering circular, call the 2 companies that went out of business and find out why. There might be a good reason there.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, we're doing a show right now, Facebook Live, we're calling it 12 Days of Branding. And the other day we talked about some global brands. And when you look at how they're marketing globally, they have different campaigns in different countries and different regions of the country, because what's going to connect on the West Coast doesn't necessarily translate on the East Coast or in the South. So Coca-Cola, for example, they have a campaign where they're doing putting names on their bottles to really connect with people, get people to share, buy more products. But in, I think it was Asia or Europe, they had a different campaign where for the same purpose of sharing, one bottle, you had to have two of them and they would interlock and then you would turn it and they would open the bottle. So you had to have two of them. They didn't do that in the US because they know that won't connect, but it will connect over in Europe.
That's
or Asia.
really smart. You need two bottles together in order to open it. So we're going to drink it together, or you got to drink two of them.
Yeah. So
Nice.
you've got to know your target market, but if you're going to market nationally or globally, what's your target market look like in different areas and regions? And then like, what's their linguistic track? What's their cultural experience? Otherwise you disconnect. And we've seen brands do that. We've seen brands really disconnect and make major, what's the word?
Faux pas.
Yeah, faux pas, and just do some horrible things. But it's because they didn't consider that.
AJ, let me role play here a little. Let's say, like when I first went on Shark Tank, or somebody they get a little bit of pop somewhere. Something positive is happening for them. Maybe they had some breakthrough article or video that went viral, and they get a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs. Okay, because that was me for a while on Shark Tank. So but there was nobody that I connected with at that point that said, Kevin, this is going to be a temporary thing. Now you got to take that and roll with it for the future. You got to build the brand. So you've got an initial kind of, I don't know what you call it, but a little potential branding, but how do you make it long-term? But what are the top 3 things that you're going to tell somebody that got that initial pop? Now, how do you capitalize on it and actually become a brand and build that brand?
Yeah. So kind of top 3 things. The first thing I would do is look at why did it blow up? What was it about you being a Shark Tank or whoever the client is? What was it that really captured the attention? And then leverage that and then look at what are other conversations happening around either your brand or your service that you can enter into to add value. And then how can you bring people back to a conversation that you have either in your community and different online community, Facebook group, your Facebook page. And it's really read the marketplace. If people value a certain aspect of who you are, how do you give them more of that? And then segue that into whatever other offerings that you want to deliver.
Gotcha. And so I think it's kind of like one of the things I'm getting at, create more content for the things that people are coming to you for, because they've only seen like maybe the tip of the iceberg. So you want to then now create more of you to get them more excited and long-term, like build a long-term relationship. I think is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Always thinking long-term. There's short-term moves, but then every move has to be calculated. You play chess, I'm going to take your pawn, but I'm doing that because 12 moves ahead, I plan to put you in checkmate. So a lot of entrepreneurs, they think very short-term, or they think so long-term that they're not making the short-term moves. So, I pull back from being a martial artist. When I step into the ring and I'm going to fight, I'm thinking through each move is a stacking the deck to get the final win. So, think long-term, short moves that add up to long moves. And, I had this thought process recently, and for entrepreneurs, there's trajectory and then there's pace, and many confuse it. My trajectory for D6 Media is to build a $100 million plus company, the next 5 years. That's our trajectory. That's what we want to do. But the pace of doing that means that we take one client, we do a live stream that doesn't generate revenue, but gets attention, and you make small moves. And many entrepreneurs, I think they confuse, well, if I just take this smaller client or this smaller gig or opportunity, well, that's not on par with building a $100 million company. Well, no, but it's on pace. So that's where the patient piece comes in. And when you understand those, now you're moving patiently, but very strategically.
Gotcha. Beautiful.
With all the success you've had, what's your biggest challenge now? How do you take the D6 brand into the stratosphere?
The D6 brand, we continue to, it's really looking ahead. Where is our industry? So branding and, creative design, where is that going in terms of technology? What's happening with Snapchat? What's the next social media platform coming up? And trying to get a read on where things are going in 5-10 years. And then, again, making short-term moves to prepare so that we can capitalize on that. So, I mean, even looking at cryptocurrency right now, that could impact how we do business. That could impact the clients that we have. So biggest challenge is looking for the next wave that's coming and being prepared for it and really staying on top of the industry.
Are you taking payment in Bitcoin yet?
Not yet. Not yet. We're researching it. My wife, who's one of our co-founders, she's really deep into understanding that space, and we're having a lot of conversations and just kind of getting a feel for it. It's popular now, but it's one of those things that is, is it a trend or is it long term? We think like what really is long term is more so than the currency is the technology, the blockchain technology. Beautiful.
Hey, is there a blockchain play for branding?
For branding, wow.
That's interesting. That's a good question.
That's a good one. So curveball. I think what's important to do is to look at that space. I know there are speakers who are speaking on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the next decade that there are companies starting to build around just that technology. And of course, then when you have multiple players, that's when branding comes into play. And how do you set yourself apart as the premier blockchain technology company or whatever it is?
Right. IBM and Xerox are both heavily involved in that now. I have a former employee who went to work at a cryptocurrency hedge fund in New York.
Wow.
Where all they do is trade this stuff all day long.
And so now my own philosophy, like I come out of old school, product development, fulfillment of packages to people's homes, advertise, buying ads. And so what I'm doing in the world of blockchain, I'm involved with something called ShipChain. It's a blockchain for fulfillment. I'm getting involved with another advertising network that's going to use blockchain for proof of ads being run, because there's so much fraud in that world. So I'm looking at the service side of what I do. And that's why it made me think, in terms of services, fulfillment, advertising, branding, there maybe is a play there, and that might be a little venture we can explore, AJ. So that, let's keep the doors open here for some possibilities. So great to hang out with you today before the holidays. Have a good one. And tell Greg Ryder that I wish him the best. I may talk to him myself also, but I'm involved with a few things coming out of his place. But are you on the West Coast?
Yeah, I'm on the West Coast in Arizona, right outside of Phoenix.
Oh, good. Super. Well, thanks for being part of our show today. Look forward to meeting you face to face here real soon.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate it, Kevin.
AJ, for our folks who are resonating with what you're saying and want to learn more about D6 Media, where should we send them?
You can go to D6 Media, letter D, number 6, media.co. And you can find us on there, and you can also connect with us. If you want to connect with me directly, I'm AJ Adams, letter I, letter M, AJ Adams on every social media platform.
All right, AJ, thanks so much for joining us. And everyone watching and listening, thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Great to see you guys. Thanks, AJ. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening to this special productivity series of the Direct Response Marketing Podcast. I've interviewed hundreds of the most successful entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and CEOs all over the world, and I want to share with you one of the biggest ways I've discovered to triple your productivity that I've learned from these amazing people. Even better, I'll pay you $500 to test drive it. Just go to takethe500challenge.com. That's www.takethe500challenge.com to learn more. Thanks so much for listening.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.